Okay. Assalamualaikum everyone. We're just gonna wait for Ustaz Mizi to send me a request. And once he sends me a request, we can start. Oh, okay. Kejap. I'm so sorry, everyone. I hope everyone has had their dinner. I haven't, tapi tak apalah. I, I, I can't see him. Do you see? There you go. MashaAllah.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. How are you, Ustaz Mizi?
I'm feeling a lot better, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good. After my jog, I feel really pumped. Did you manage to take a nap before this IG live?
No, I didn't. But I'm gonna sleep right after, inshallah, later.
By the way, I just want to use you as an example to the audience that self-love, manifests itself in many ways. One of it is to actually get some rest. So, Ustaz Mizi, please get some rest after this.
I will, for sure, inshallah.
Okay, so just an introduction. When I received the brief for this IG live session, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, it's so relevant to everything that's going on in my life. And I felt, the Iman publication like stalked me on my tweets or something, because I really felt like it forced me to reflect on how I've been dealing with, the circumstances that we are all in at the moment. And I feel that with this pandemic, the landscape of our lives have changed drastically. From going to the office, we now have to work from home. Some of us, many of us have plans to, open a business. Many of us have plans. My youngest brother actually had plans to study abroad, but now he's already, I think, I'm a bad sister. I think he's in his final year, like doing his degree. So, my parents don't want to send him abroad during this pandemic. So it's not just, I feel that this pandemic has affected everyone, obviously in different levels, different intensities, but how we deal with it, I feel that I've noticed that everyone's been dealing with it in a very similar way, because this pandemic is so new to us, like what do we do? And I feel that when life doesn't go as planned, and I have noticed, like, even with my family members and my close friends, we tend to equate bad experiences with Allah's wrath, like Allah's punishment. When I was reading like the brief, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I actually had those moments even last year and this year. There were just so many things that I planned to do, which I no longer could do. Like, it was on hold. I wanted to do more public speaking, in public, not online. And I wasn't able to do all those things. I had so many other plans. And obviously whenever you're down, I feel like it's human nature. We tend to compare ourselves to people. And especially now that we're working from home, most of us cannot go out. We're living in our social media bubble. We're just scrolling like, oh my goodness, that person is doing so well. Atau like, even if that person, let's say that person isn't necessarily excelling, we always think that despite what's happening, this person is coping so much better than me. So my first question to you, Ustaz Mizi, is how do we stop comparing ourselves to others whenever we feel that we're not doing well?
Thank you, Raja Sarina. Very good question. I think this is a problem that a lot of people face, even before the pandemic happened. right? But you
Mm-hmm.
rightly said that when the pandemic happened, because we were stuck in our own little social media bubble, you said, we tend to look at everything even more, and everything was just magnified 10 times.
Mm.
And it's even more frustrating when, before this, if you felt like somebody was doing more or progressing faster and quicker than you are, you could have just gone out and did something yourself. But now you're restricted, right? Your movements are restricted. You can't do much. You can't go out. You can't express yourself like you normally do. And so, it just makes the whole experience worse. So your question is, how do we stop comparing ourselves to others? I
Or
believe
maybe
there are,
the first question you can, before answering that question, you can answer like, why do we feel the need to compare ourselves? And then how do we stop?
thank you for making the question more difficult. Why do we? Classic Sarina. I think we compare because inside each and every one of us, we all have insecurities. All of us. Regardless of who you are, what your background is, how much money you have, how successful you are, how many businesses you own, how many degrees you have acquired. We all have insecurities. And this is something that we cannot deny. I think the more you deny that I don't have insecurities, I'm good, I think it's a lie. I think that's a cover for some other insecurities that you have. So if we acknowledge that, okay, I have insecurities, number one, that's the first step. The second step is then we need to see, okay, I feel insecure in this particular area. For example, a lot of us went through our teenage life always comparing ourselves. Even back then when social media was non-existent, we compared ourselves to our peers because that was the closest competitor or the closest people who we saw every day, spoke to every day. And if a friend came to school wearing a nicer bag, if a friend went to school and their shoes are cleaner than ours or whatever, I don't know. Starting from the things that are most visible, eventually leading up to, wow, she got selected into the debate team and I didn't. He is the captain of the football team and I didn't even make it to the first team, And then moving on to, wow, he graduated with honors and wow, she's the valedictorian, It just gets worse and worse and worse. And I think there is a constant need for us to compare, at least we think we do, because some of us grew up in an environment where our parents used to compare us with others. They would say, Mizi, why aren't you like your cousin? I see your cousin so hardworking in school. His scores are always close to perfect. Why can't you be like him? And then if sometimes your dad might say, hey, why don't you go out, Sarina, with your friends? Look at all of them. You're always socializing, going out together. Why are you always sitting at home? Come on, go out, make some friends. And so, we always were used to being compared. When we went to school, it was only natural that our report books, the one thing that we received twice a year, at least in my case, twice a year, then we would compare. And it just got worse. Like every test paper, every exam we sat for, every subject we compare. And so I think it's something that we have been programmed to do. So if you ask me why, number one, it's insecurities. Number two, it's our upbringing and our environment. It's so common that we are told to look at somebody else and then make that somebody our benchmark, not because it's good to be there, but because we are made to feel like we are inefficient, insufficient, that we are inferior to others. So I guess that's my first response. Okay? I forgot your second question. What was it?
How do we stop comparing ourselves?
Okay. So maybe in this case, I would like to take the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. He said that don't look at those above you, look also at those beneath you, for fear that you might actually start to believe that God has denied you of his blessings. So when we look at others, like you said in the example earlier in the opening, others who are doing better than us, others who are progressing quicker than us, others who have settled down before us, others who have had children before us, whatever the example may be, there are tons of things to compare with. And If we only look at those who are ahead of us, we'll start to have this mindset, or this assumption rather, that I think God forgot about me. I think God doesn't love me anymore. You said earlier, I think God is angry at me. I think there's something wrong with me, right? And that is what we should not find ourselves in a situation where we think God has blessed others more than we have. Okay, so that's one thing. But another advice that I believe is also very practical is, instead of looking at what others have, just look at what you have. Instead of just continually wishing that you have what that person has, look at all the blessings you have around you and think, is there anyone out there who's praying for what I have that I'm taking for granted? I have my health, I have a job, I have my family, I have technology, I have school, I have some, you may have things that other people are looking at you and say, wow, Sarina, I wish I had your life, and you might be thinking, I wish I had some other person's life. So it's a never-ending process. Unhealthy comparisons, there is no end to it. So the best thing to do is to, instead of comparing, let us express gratitude.
I also think this need to compare ourselves to other people, sometimes I feel like it's the whispers of shaitan, because he makes you envious. It can be, and I feel that I don't think you know how like a lot of like self-help books, a lot of people say, oh, don't judge yourself, don't compare yourself to others. And I think it's okay to judge ourselves to an extent. It's okay to compare ourselves to others to an extent. I believe that the key is to observe how doing those things actually make you feel. Like, what does it lead you to doing? So if I compare myself and it leads me to feeling ungrateful, being envious, then I know I have to stop. But if I compare myself to others and then I think, oh, mashallah, Allah is so generous. He gives, my friend so much more than me. Like, I'm so happy for her. Then I know that comparing myself to another person is not a bad thing. Or sometimes, we may compare ourselves to, I don't know, someone who's more pious, more alim, and then we feel, gosh, that so-and-so reads the Quran every day. When was the last time I recited the Quran? Maybe I should get started. I think that's a healthy kind of attitude. So I guess, I do feel that as human beings, we do need some form of measuring stick. So sometimes the measuring stick is, we compare ourselves to how our peers are doing. But the key is to observe like how it makes us feel. If it makes us envious, then I think that is from shaitan, that's from our ego, that wants others to not do well, that only we can do better. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but
That's
I think I
brilliant.
made some good points.
No, your points are really, really good. Thank you. And on that note, about when you gave the example of looking at a friend who's more pious, I want to share a little story. When I was in university, there was this one friend of mine that whenever we went out for lunch, he would join us, but he would not eat on some days. And then some days he would just altogether say, it's okay, I'm not hungry. And then after a while, you know what, I was concerned, because I thought maybe he didn't have money. Maybe I could share with him or buy him a meal. But then I started to notice a pattern. The pattern was that it was always a Monday or a Thursday that he would not eat. And then I whispered to him. And said, hey, Wan, kau puasa? He was like, yeah, jangan bila orang, And that inspired me to want to do more of my sunnah fasting. You know what I mean? So on that note also, Allah says in the Quran, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, compete with one another in doing good deeds. And that's fine. The companions of the Prophet, they were known to ask, Ya Rasulullah, what did Abu Bakr do today? And he donated this amount. Then they would try to do more. And it wasn't, because last time there was no social media to announce to the world, hey guys, I just donated this amount of money. It was just for their own desire to want to outperform somebody else, not because they want to put the other person down, because it's not going to happen when you do more ibadah, for example, just to increase themselves, because they feel, that they have a stronger need to have a heavier weighing scale in their good deeds in the hereafter. So yeah, I just thought I would mention that too.
As I was listening, I actually had a point in my head. I wanted to ask you a question, and then it just went away.
It's okay. It happens. It happens.
Inshallah, you'll come back. So I want to talk a little bit about your book, You Are Loved. So in the book, as the title suggests, it centers on the theme of love and also self-love. So my question to you is, the topic of self-love, I find that it's such a popular topic now. I find like therapists talk about it, like mental health advocates talk about it, like just every other person I know is talking about self-love. And then next to self-love is self-care, something which you need to start doing, okay? But anyway, so my question is, how does self-love actually look like? Because we talk, like I find that it's easy when we talk about like loving someone else, like loving our mom, loving our siblings. We know how it looks like, but how does caring for ourselves look like? And where do we start? If we haven't been loving ourselves all this while, how do we start? And why is it so important? But let's just start with, how do we start loving ourselves and how does it look like?
Well, there are actually many ways, that we can show love to ourselves. Many ways. The one way that you've always been harping on me to do, which is to rest more. That's one. To eat healthier, but it also is what you say to yourself on a regular basis. I think the language, the tone that we use to speak to ourselves is very important. You need to pay attention to those words. Like, if you always catch yourself saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving of anyone's love, I'll never be enough for my parents, I'll never be enough for my spouse, I'm not, I'll never get that promotion, I'm just so horrible, I'm the worst employee in this organization, and it's a small organization, and I'm the worst, So be wary of the things you say to yourself. To be honest, I also struggled with self-love growing up, as a teenager, as a young undergraduate, I went through those moments too. The one thing that I feel shifted everything, changed everything, and ultimately, alhamdulillah, like even the course of my life from then on, was really when I started paying more attention to what I said to myself. And being kinder to myself with the words that I used. So if you ask me, so we know how it's like to love someone else, how does it look like when we love ourselves? It's actually the same. If you would not say something hurtful to somebody else, please do not say those words to yourself. If you would not, if you would do anything to get out of the way to do something for someone you love, then you should also stop everything else and do something if you need that thing urgently for yourself. And if you think that you would advise your friend to stay away from negative influences, then you should also advise yourself, am I being surrounded by negative influences, toxic surroundings? I need to perhaps cut myself off from some of those things as well. So my answer to that is, whatever that it looks like, however that it looks like, when you're loving somebody else, it almost always looks quite similar to how you should do to yourself as well.
You talked about, evaluating the negative influences surrounding us. And, I picked up this negative self-talk through many different people in my life. Obviously, there were the grown-ups in my life when I was, growing up as a child, but also majority of my friends, at least in primary school, they were very negative toward themselves. And now that you mentioned it, because almost every other person in my class was negative, I thought that was the norm. And actually, now that I think about it, I actually remember in school, at one point, I started off primary school being a fairly confident girl tau, because I didn't have a negative experience in kindergarten. So when I entered primary school, I was quite positive, and I wasn't harsh towards myself. I wasn't harsh when it came to failing. You know, I just tried out. I wanted to try out like as many different things as possible, but all my friends were very negative. So I'll give you an example, and I'm sure every Asian who hears what I'm about to say next will be able to relate. For example, they got their test results back. It's 90%. Oh my god, only 90% lah. Oh my god, so bad. And then I look at my test result, like I got 80%. If 90% is bad, 80% must be worse. Even though
Yeah, yeah.
80% is considered an A, you know? And then I realized every other friend of mine, you know, they would compare their test results. And then they weren't bad. Majority of my friends were like, I swear most of them ended up being doctors, dentists, scientists now, you know. But they would, you know, anything that's less than 95% is like, oh my goodness, I'm so dumb, I'm so terrible, I'm a failure in life. So I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I'm the abnormal one. Like, should I be this harsh to myself? I actually picked it up from my friends.
Mm.
So I find that it's hard to have that light bulb moment and think, oh no, this is not normal when everyone around you is that way. And you said how you reached a point when you decided that you wanted to practice positive self-talk or more compassionate like self-talk. But
Yeah.
what led to that moment when you realized, you know what, I'm done with speaking to myself in a negative manner? What was that moment?
To be honest, it was just literally, I think I remembered myself waking up one day after a really rough day before that, like really, hating myself, didn't like everything about myself. Just waking up one day and I told myself, you know what, I'm just sick and tired of feeling sick and tired every day. You know, that's it. Sometimes you just need, yeah, sometimes you just need to have that one moment, and that will start, it will become like the catalyst to many more positive days, and having more positive conversations with yourself in here. But it starts with catching yourself first. Like you said, a lot of us, when we were younger, we didn't know that that was not good. The kind of, negative self-talk, we couldn't identify it as such. And so the first step is to actually catch yourself thinking that way. And then after that, okay, deciding I need to change this because this is not going to help me. If I want to have a happy future, a happy life, at least peaceful, right? I need to stop allowing those voices to influence my day, to influence my mood every day. Because if I have a bad mood, it's gonna ruin everyone else's day that I bump into, that I meet, that I see at work, and so on. And so make the decision as soon as you find out that, oh yes, this voice, it's here. Like what Ustaz and Sarina said, it's there. I know a lot of people said they can relate to your story, Sarina. So yeah, so please recognize it as it is and then just stop it, okay?
Yeah. I had that moment. I had that light bulb moment. It was actually sometime, I think it was sometime before graduation or perhaps maybe after graduation. I had this, just like you, I was so sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. I was just so done feeling always inadequate. I was so done always feeling that I can't achieve anything in life. And I think because after exams ended, that period before, in between exams and graduation, I had some time to kind of to reflect on how my life has been so far. And then I realized that the majority of my life up to that point was lived in such a negative way, up to that point. So, okay, I graduated at 21. So I felt that, okay, because I mentioned that I didn't always speak to myself negatively. So it was sort of primary school onwards. I would say the age of 7 onwards. So about like 15 years of my life was spent on me beating myself up over like small things to like the big things, you know, and it kind of adds up. It's like a snowball effect, and then eventually, you know, I get crushed by this avalanche that I created for myself. And then, you know, I told myself that, you know what, Rina, you spent 15 years criticizing yourself so harshly. You spent 15 years of your life, you know, just being so harsh towards yourself, like just beating yourself up. Why not try something different? Like, is this actually working for you? Macam, how does criticizing yourself all the time benefit you? I really had to ask myself that, does it benefit me? Like, where does it, you know?
I
like
asked a similar question. You know what I asked myself?
What?
Mizi, if you continue thinking this way, behaving this way, what is life going to look like 10 years from now? More of the same? Do I want more of the same for the next 10 years? Sounds like a very unpleasant life, you know? So I told myself, you know what, enough is enough.
Yeah, and I remember thinking how, you know, there were so many things in secondary school and also in university that like so many opportunities that I rejected. I was too scared to try because, number one, I was so scared to fail. And I was scared to fail, not simply because I felt that people were going to say things about me, but also what I would say to myself, you know? And I realized that I don't want that for myself anymore. You know, I'm about to embark on adulthood. Like, I'm about to embark on working life. If I want to excel, I need to like get rid of this chip on my shoulder and be brave. You know, I cannot live in fear and then think that I can build a successful life out of a foundation of like fear and negative self-talk, self-hate. I realized I actually have to start doing things differently. And also, if I want the energy and the motivation to get through life, I really need to be my own like cheerleader, my own like hype man.
You know,
Okay.
just that, I know we have a lot to talk about, but we're on a roll here, so, you know, bouncing off each other. But the one thing you said just now, it touched me a little bit because it kind of brought back some of those memories. And maybe, just maybe, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think maybe there are some viewing and listening right now, it would also touch them too, because you said that it's not so much, at one point, it wasn't just about what other people might say, but it's about when you go back and it's just you and your own thoughts. You're scared to go back to you and your own thoughts. You know, the time when you go back home, you're done with your day, you sit down in your room all by yourself, but your thoughts are still with you. And if the thoughts are self-defeating, they're self-blaming thoughts, self-sabotaging thoughts, it's a horrifying experience, you know, to live through that every single time. So that's why we'd rather not try anything. We'd rather not do anything, because then we'll be embarrassed and like, oh my God, why did I even volunteer to do that presentation? I did such a horrible job. I mispronounced so many words. I think some of my friends were laughing at me. You know, from the peripheral view, I think some of them were laughing at me. And you just goes on and on and on and on. You end up crying the night. And so, you know, I hope let's be kinder to ourselves, basically. That's the message. And let's stop doing that to ourselves, because I think we all deserve a little bit more love from ourselves, first and foremost.
I also, you know, just to bounce off what you said, you know, the inside of our mind sometimes is a lot scarier than reality. Like, sometimes we think, oh, people are going to be so harsh, people are going to be so, you know, they're going to make fun of me. But sometimes reality will surprise you, and the people that you think are going to like bring you down, they're actually more supportive. It's so ironic, you know, you think the people out there are so scary, but actually you are your biggest enemy. Because I remembered when I decided to kind of test the waters when it comes to public speaking, I started with having an open session. I think it was back in 2018, so I did a small open session. And actually, the topic is similar to this topic. It was called Nurturing a Kinder Inner Voice, because I chose that topic because, you know, so much of, I guess, the milestones that I've reached in my 20s is a result of me choosing to have a kinder inner voice. And I cannot stress just how important it is to have a kind inner voice. You know, I used to be like one of those people who used to, in a way, not look down, but belittle just the power of having a kind inner voice. You know, like when a phrase is repeated so many times, like self-love, you kind of get sick of it.
Yeah.
Like self-love, mental health, mental health. But then once you actually get into it, you kind of reflect on it and how it affects your life. You actually see that actually there's a reason why people are talking about self-love. There's a reason why people are talking about mental health, because it really affects everyone. You sometimes we think, oh no, like this can never affect me. But you know, sometimes when you have that moment of arrogance, you know, Allah will test you, and
Yeah.
then you realize, oh, I should not have said that. And you know, like going back to my point, you know, nurturing a kinder inner voice is really important. But despite the importance of it, a lot of people, they delay that journey of changing their how their inner voice sounds like. Why are people so fearful to embark on this journey?
Well, because I think they are scared that others might judge them. It's really funny because they're scared that people might judge them if they do one thing. If they do the opposite, they're still scared of the same thing. Going on a self-love journey, they worry that others might think that, wow, this person is so weak, right? What a wuss. What is all this self-love talk? You know, I don't see as many men attending self-love talks as there are
Yeah.
women, because I think somehow masculinity has been defined as you cannot love yourself, you cannot talk about this kind of stuff. Mental health, you know, you shouldn't go too much into it. You know, these are more for women, and I think that is a gross understanding or judgment of how we should look at all these issues. So I think the moment we start realizing that, okay, it's not as bad as it is, like you said, just open up a little bit. I hope that when I published my book, You Are Loved, it allows more people to actually read it, you know, and encourages people, because maybe they've read my one of my other two books before and they like my style of writing, and I feel like this is really the next. What is the next thing? I ask myself, what is the next thing I want people to know? What is the most important thing that I'm seeing right now based on all the questions that I get? And what I realize is that the most common thing, Sarina, when I look at the common denominator, someone might say, I'm having problems with my parents, I'm having problems with my spouse, I'm having problems with my kids, I'm having problems at work, having problems with my friends. When I get to the root of it, when I start talking to them, asking them a few questions, at the end of the day, I realize it's really the fact that they don't feel loved. They don't feel loved. They don't feel like they are deserving of love. They've never heard the words, I love you, said to them. That's why chapter 1 is that. They don't know what love is like, and therefore they don't know, even when it's coming, they don't know. They turn away love. So that's why I decided to write this. Hopefully it's clearer, and hopefully, you know, some of the men also would read it. And I know a lot of sisters have bought it for their men, for their partners, as a gift. So yeah, I think we should definitely have more conversations. This is not like some of those words. I remember, you know, when you talk about words that are so overly used that it becomes so cliche, right? I remember there was a time when the word empower was used all the time, like empower, empower, empower. I'm like so sick of the word empower. So I get, so I get what you're saying. But I hope this is different. We look at the underlying message that we are trying to convey in these conversations and dialogues now. Yeah.
I just need to mention to people that this conversation that we are having is in conjunction with PESTA Buku Iman. So if you want to get Ustaz Mizi's book or books, you can get them on pestabukuiman.com. Special discount. Da-da-da-da. Okay. I'm a walking ad. I actually came from I was from the advertising industry. I don't know if people knew that, but anyway.
I know.
Did you? Okay. Anyway. Um, okay. Yeah, you were saying um, how there are all these phrases that are just being tossed around so many times, recycled, and it's so funny because I remember maybe 3-4 years ago I told myself I don't really want to talk about mental health anymore. I don't really want to talk about depression. I don't want to talk about anxiety. But these days, whenever I'm invited to do any kind of discussion, it's on those topics. But I believe that there must be a reason why
Yeah.
Allah has presented me these opportunities, and I realized that actually there's so many people struggling with these issues, and I struggle with them, and to be honest, I still continue to struggle with them. That's why I find that these kind of discussions are important to have, because it gives people, the I guess the comfort that it's not just them going through these things. And speaking of, it's not just them going through these things, I think it's really important that people know, everyone is affected by, the uncertainties that this pandemic has that caused. And it's important that people listening to this don't feel ashamed
Yeah.
that they have these fears. And back to, the issue of comparison, I have a lot of friends and, in fact, like family members who are just not the type to talk about what's going on in their heads. And because of that, I perceive them as having it together, like keeping it together all the time. I always think, oh my goodness, that so and so is coping so well, even though they may have gotten a salary cut, or I know I have a lot of friends who are freelance, like writers, freelance graphic designers, and due to this pandemic, they're out of a job, so they don't know when their next project will be. They have all these fears, how do I pick? How will I pay the bills? My children are still in college. How am I going to provide for my wife? My children, all these things. It's important that people know these fears are really, really valid. But at the same time, it's important to not just live in fear. We also have to change our mindset and also find ways to deal with the issues that are at hand, the issues that are causing us to have these fears. So my question is, how should we validate these fears and instability while still taking care of ourselves and our loved ones at the same time? Because sometimes, and I realize I do this too, I feel that I'm so scared of feeling these emotions. I'm just gonna hide it. I'm just gonna push it down, and I'm just gonna bury it and not feel these emotions. But something I've learned time and time again, whenever you bury emotions, it's gonna go back to the surface. So it's important to validate it, but at the same time, how do we also, how to say, not just dwell in that fear? Because I also feel that fear, although it is important for us to validate our fears, it's important for us to allow ourselves to feel whatever emotions that come to us. There are some emotions that are not for us to dwell in for a very long time, because if we are to sit in our fear for a very long time, it's going to prevent us from moving forward.
Yeah. That was a very long question.
Sorry. I wanted to give a context. Okay, I'll repeat the question. So how do we validate our fears, but also practice self-care at the same time?
No, I mean, I like what you said earlier, because I think it resonates with so many people. When you are surrounded with people who seem to have it all together, and the truth is, it's not that they have it all together. The truth is that they're just good at masking their fears. And so we think that we should not ever confront or validate our fears. The way to validate our fears, I believe, is that for those who are fearful of the uncertainties and the outcomes of, confronting them, I think sometimes what we need is we need some kind of peer support. Like if I have a confidant that I can speak to, that I trust, whom I know will not judge me, then it gives me greater confidence to actually talk about, hey, you know what, I'm really scared about this. You know, like, I think we should learn to get comfortable with talking about our greatest fears in life. What are you most fearful of? Are you scared of, not being good enough for your parents? Are you scared of disappointing your partner? Are you scared of not being able to make your children happy? Are you scared that you might um, not be seen as good enough in society's eyes? Like, what are some of your greatest fears? Are you scared of dying alone? Like, are you scared of losing somebody? There are so many fears, and I think the more we confront all of these fears, the better we'll be. I'm not saying that you'll have all the answers. I'm not saying the person you ask will have the answers for you. I'm just saying that you should confront them. Like you said, suppressing these emotions and these fears are not going to help. At some point, when you least expect it, suddenly you implode. There's an internal implosion, and you just break down. And those are the days when you just feel like, why can't I just get up and do anything? Why do I feel I just want to lock myself in the house, in my room? Why am I suddenly crying at 3 a.m. in the morning? Like, you can't, you think like they're out of the blue, but they're not. You're actually the outcome of all the accumulated emotions that you've been pressing down, burying, like you said, suppressing all these years. So the sooner we get them off our chest and off our minds and onto a piece of paper, I know some people, the reason they blog is because of this. Some people start newsletters because of this. Some people tweet because of this. Like, people have different ways of getting things off their mind and off their chest. And do whatever that works for you. Sometimes you need things to be private, then go ahead. If you're more comfortable with making things public, go ahead. If you just want to talk with one person, then that shall always be your option. Do with whatever that works. And once you do that, you'll realize that, you know what, actually talking about my fears isn't too bad after all. And then it gets easier and easier, and then you can actually become a good friend to somebody else who has fears. You become now a positive source and a positive influence, and someone that others can trust. Why? Because when you get comfortable talking about your fears, others will look at you and say, oh, look at him, look at her, so comfortably talking about their fears. It's not a bad thing, is it? And then it gives them the courage to actually speak up and share.
Fear is a very natural feeling, and I think sometimes when we let it out, that we just lay all our fears on the table, it seems less scary. Like I said, sometimes the inside of our mind is far scarier than reality. On days that I feel overwhelmed, the first thing I do when I wake up, like after subuh, I would journal. And there's this thing, they call it a mind dump. So whatever that's bugging you, like anything it is, I don't care about writing in a nice essay or like whatever journal form. Just for example, I haven't paid the bill. I forgot to do this thing last week, or I feel ugly or something. Just like dump it all, and then sometimes once you actually see on paper, you're like, actually I can just pay the bill next week. Oh, okay, ugly. It's not like someone told me I look great today. Like once it's actually out there, it's easier to tackle your fears or your issues one by one. But once it's when it's still in your head, I find that it's like wires. It just gets jumbled up. So once you put it out on paper, or like you express it to someone, you get like a very neat listed form. But speaking of fears, I find that the common fear people have during this pandemic has a lot to do with rezeki. And I think the rezeki, when we talk about rezeki, let's not just confine it to wealth. Rezeki isn't just wealth, For some people, they feel that, I actually have friends. I have a friend who she is divorced, and she actually, I think early last 2020, yeah, so early last year, she finally have the courage to start dating again, And then the pandemic happened. And so she felt that, you know what, it's been years since my divorce. I'm finally ready to get out there, you know, to inshallah find a partner to get married to. And then boom, you know, she felt like, is this a sign I'm not meant to pursue what I want to pursue? And I find that
So
what
do you say to her?
What did I say to her? Huh. I said online dating.
Because
Well, actually,
you have experience, or
no, no. But I told her that quite a number of my friends found their spouses online, and you know, because I feel like actually it's a really common love story these days. You know, when you ask someone, how did you guys meet? It's like, oh, I thought she was cute, and I saw her on my I don't know, colleagues' Instagram, and I asked, is she single? And then berkenalan, and then boop, you know, 5 months later get married. You know, but well, I told her that, you know, rezeki, you know, first and foremost, we always think that whatever we get is through our own efforts. Yes, it's through our own efforts, but it's whether Allah wants it for you or not. You know, in the end, Allah decides when you get it. And so I told her that, pandemic or not, if you are meant to remarry this year or last year, it's going to happen. Like, nothing is impossible for Allah. And actually, I have a story. I have one of my cousin-in-laws, her brother actually got married during a pandemic, and he actually got to know the girl during the pandemic, during the Singaporeans call it circuit breaker. For us, it's like the MCO, and yeah, it was online. So see,
wow,
you know,
amazing.
it's, you know, it's not impossible for Allah. But did you just make me answer my own question? Okay,
I'm glad you realized it.
Yeah, now I was like,
now you're a bit more pro. Last time you didn't realize, you just answered everything.
that's not nice now. Like, you made me do all the hard work. Okay, so how do you balance? Okay, so the next question is, how do we balance loving ourselves while also working towards improving ourselves?
I think they go hand in hand. I think they go hand in hand, you know, like when you are trying to improve yourself, that is also part of self-love. In fact, I think I dedicated a few pages in my book, You Are Loved, about this, because I'm all for self-improvement. I love, you know, investing in myself. And I feel like every investment that I make in myself, whether learning a new skill or, you know, an area of knowledge or something new, it's always about upgrading myself, and that's a sign of self-love. So I highly encourage that, you know, for those of you who are feeling down, you know, you think like life is not going your way, don't just sit down and feel sorry for yourself. Don't have a pity party for yourself. Just get out there and do something exciting. Like, look at what are the options right now, and look at what others are doing. Not to compare, but look at, if there's something that one of your friends or one of your cousins are doing that also appears somewhat interesting to you, go for it, try it. You know, I have a cousin just recently, I don't know whether he's watching this now, but he used to be a flight attendant, and he was really, really good at it, Singapore Airlines. But then, you know, he's been grounded for a year. So he just changed his career, and because he saw that this is something that he's always thought of doing, but now it really literally presented itself to him. So he went and do it. He went and did it. And so, but of course that required learning first, right? You need to, it's a totally different field and an experience. And so I would really just tell everyone today, if you want to go back and bring something back from tonight's session, just try to work on an area that you feel, if you were to improve in this area, it would make even a 10% difference in the quality of your life. Do it. Even a 10%, whether it's like, okay, I want to develop self-confidence. I want to be better at public speaking. I want to write like Raja Sarina. I want to, you know.
MashaAllah. I don't even have a book out. You have 3 books out, or 4.
Well, you know, more and more when you get invited by Iman publication, it means something's up. soon. So,
Is this something I don't know about?
okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay. You said self-love and self-improvement goes hand in hand, but how do we know not to overstep the boundaries? Because I feel, I'm not sure, but I think for some people, they might take self-love a bit too far where it becomes almost complacent. Like they don't feel the need to push themselves because they take that self-kindness a bit too far. So where do we draw the line?
They don't what? They don't know how to what themselves? So you said something.
No, for some people they might take self-love a bit too far whereby they don't feel the need to push themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They don't push themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do see individuals like that, and sometimes I think it's a matter of attitude, and I think we are the only ones who can fix our own attitudes. There's no life coach out there that can change a person's attitude. They can only change your routines. They can only change your mindset. Influence you to make better decisions. But your attitude is still just yours. If you keep looking at it as this is too hard, I'm gonna stop. This is too stressful, I'm gonna stop. This is too much, I'm gonna quit. Like if that's always your way, you're never gonna be able to see any positive improvements. So it's good to know your limits, but always question, is this really my limit? Why is it that everyone else is not just one step ahead of me? Everyone else is 3, 5, 7, 10 times ahead of me. Am I really that bad, or am I selling myself short? So just be honest with yourself. It's an honest conversation, not to condemn yourself, but to uplift yourself. You need to know yourself, because you cannot esteem what you don't know. You cannot raise what you don't know. You need to know who you are, where you're at, what your levels are, and then that's how you raise your confidence and your esteem. So
I like to believe that Allah has already given us the tools that we need to get whatever we set our minds to achieve, but it's really just a matter of us finding that courage, like taking that initiative to discover new territories. I feel like as I look back on my life, I've always, when it comes to, for example, public speaking, I know I'm not the best yet, but I know I have it, like deep
you're pretty
down.
awesome. You're pretty awesome.
Deep down, it's just a matter of me trying, because I feel that why is it whenever I push away an opportunity, there's this little voice saying that, why did you do that? Why didn't you take that? And it haunts me every time I push away an opportunity. And I always...
See, that's why, you shouldn't think that I'm a bully. I'm actually being nice to you. I'm helping you recognize your true potential.
I jest. I was just joking when I call you a bully. I say it in a very light-hearted manner. But I think, to everyone who's listening into this, if there's something that's always on your mind, I don't know, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's you completely changing the course of your career, if these voices always, come back to you, I think it's worth exploring.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this talk by, I can't remember this sheikh punya name. I think it was Sheikh Walid Musad or something. He's an American Syrian, and he was saying how, once you're actually in your element, you realize somehow Allah aids you to do what you're meant to do. So when sometimes, for example, you're miserable in your job, life is so difficult, because I think sometimes you're not meant to be in that place. Like, I don't think, my therapist always ask me to question my misery. Like, in fact, I think she was one of the reasons I I left my job back in my early 20s. You know, she was asking me to really question my feelings, you know, evaluate my feelings. And I think like um, whoever is listening to this and you feel that you're not meant to be like where you are, it's worth evaluating, you know, your choices. You know, just evaluate the possibilities. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. I want to ask you, what is your hope to everyone who reads your book?
My hope to everyone who reads my book is I hope that they will not turn down the opportunity to apply some of the tips that are shared in the book. I hope that they will be more receptive to the idea of self-love and self-care. I hope that they will be kinder to themselves. I hope that they will practice positive self-talk. I hope that they'll have the courage to change their surroundings if they are too toxic. I hope that they realize, you know, even if everyone abandons them, that Allah will never abandon them, and Allah's love is more than enough for us to make it in this world and in hereafter.
I really love that message. I want to add on that even though I haven't read your book, I'm sorry, but I have your 2 other books here, okay? But anyway, I have. Wait, I just want to prove to you that I have your 2 other books because I feel like you're gonna.
I trust you. I trust you.
You're not gonna let me live this down. Ta-da! So I think this is the one that you signed. No, I lied. This is the one that you signed.
I can't remember what I said. What did I say?
You said some inspiring words.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot what I was going to say. Was it on?
Yeah.
On
anyway,
no.
guys.
I really hope that whoever reads your book and whoever's listening realizes that they are deserving of the happiness that they seek. And I realize that a lot of times what's really blocking us from living our full potential, what's blocking us from happiness is just us. Because we feel that we don't deserve it, so we actually sabotage ourselves. Self-sabotage. So once you actually change your inner voice and you make your inner voice cooperate with you, you will realize that you will get much further in life. You know, you get much. That's the reason why, you know, all these sports, they have cheerleaders and stuff, you know, and that's the reason why they have fans. You know, I'm told that whenever, you know, a football team plays in their hometown, they tend to win because of because of the support they're getting from the local supporters, the fans. So I think we can use that example for us. You know, if you want to get far in life, we need that support. And sometimes, you know, it's sad to say that sometimes your family might not support you, sometimes your friends may not support you, they may not support you in your vision for happiness, whatever it is. But it's really important that you support yourself, because at the end of the day, you know, you have to live with your decision. You know, no one else has to live with your decision. That's also another thing. It's getting to me now. That's another thing I've learned, like, from life. No one else has to live your decision. No one else has to live your regrets. You have to live with your regrets. So if you want to change your job, if you want to write a book, if you want to pursue a different career, or you want to quit your job, you want to stay at home and you want to focus on your family, like, do it. No one else is going to live in regret for the decisions that you didn't make.
I feel so motivated right now. You are definitely a pro public speaker, okay? You are a pro.
No, please.
Yes.
No. That's another thing, that if this pandemic didn't happen, I would be in Singapore a lot more, because you're supposed to train me.
Anyway, guys, at the end, thank you for tuning in. At the end of this session, you can actually download some digital merchandises. You know, and I think, Sarina, do you know how they can get it? I think they need to fill out some form or something. imanshop.com.
Is it? I wish I
Yep.
knew. Digital merchandise. Where is it? There's
Yeah.
a special digital merchandise for Iman. Is it from PESTABUKUIMAN.com? Either way, even if it's not on there, you should really check out PESTABUKUIMAN.com to get books on with special discounts, including Ustaz Mizi's book.
Not including, but especially Ustaz Mizi's book. Can you
Oh.
rephrase that?
Especially Ustaz Mizi's book. Please get it now. Because if you're motivated by the content that we're sharing now, imagine reading the pages of his book. It's just...
Guys, can you tell Raja Sarina to write a book with me, please?
Okay. If I get... Okay, I'm trying to think of a number. If I get 20 DMs asking me to write a book with you, then I'll do it. But
Okay,
I need
guys, 20 DMs. 20 DMs to Raja Sarina saying, please write a book with Ustaz Mizi. You know,
Yeah.
start writing this year, publish it next year, okay? For the next year's PESTA Buku, okay?
Yeah, but I need 20 DMs. Is that too little? Because I don't think I'll... Because I doubt I will get
20 is a
20
good number.
DMs.
20 is a good number.
That's why I said 20 DMs. I don't think 20 people are going to DM me. But if they do, I'll take it as a sign.
Yes, not just a sign, a must.
I must, okay. Yes, because I need to push myself, you know? I need to test my limits and see how far I can get in life. And inshallah, like once I achieve it...
See, we even have a buyer already. We have a buyer. I'm going to buy it, someone said. It's not
They
even
say that
started
now.
yet.
They say that now. I don't know. What if... Okay. DMing right away. Oh, mashallah. Okay.
Okay,
but what will the book be about?
It will probably be about how to deal with bullies. And then the cover,
I have a lot to say.
And then on the cover, the word bully, there's an arrow pointing to my face, you know?
Oh yeah, that's great. Starting, chapter number 1, Ustaz Mizi. But on a serious note, bullying is... I have a lot to say.
It's a good topic, right? It's a good topic, right?
It is a good topic. But then, you know, the title of bullying...
But some people might look at bullying and say, oh, it's only for kids in school. But you know bullying happens at work. All the way to your professional life, all the way.
And what's worse is, I find that, especially for me, sometimes we may leave the place where the bullies were at, but you internalize whatever the bullies say. So it can be
you bring the bully along with you.
Yes, precisely. So a lot of times we've already cut ties with the bully, but we don't realize that we internalize everything that the bully has said, and we're actually carrying on the works of the bully.
I have a lot to say too, so I think this might be a good title. This might be.
Have you had experience with bullying?
Of course.
Really?
Yeah, in school, secondary school, early.
But you went to sekolah agama, right?
Oh, sekolah agama semua malaikat eh? Oh, I didn't know. Sorry.
No, I'm surprised. Really? Wow.
It's everywhere. I think it's everywhere, regardless of whatever school, surrounding, people.
Wow. The inside scoop of being in sekolah agama. Okay, I know bullies exist everywhere, in all schools regardless, but I'm surprised that in sekolah agama they have time to bully. Wow.
In between hafal Quran, hafal hadith, ada masa, insyaAllah.
Where are those people now? Have they apologized to you?
Yeah, they've become imams now.
But they're nice ones?
Yes, nicer. They've changed.
Okay, mashallah, alhamdulillah. To be fair, I've had some bullies in the past who actually did change for the better.
Yeah.
And when we talk, they did realize they were just being very silly. And they didn't realize how much they impacted me. Yeah, I'm just saying. I know this sounds... It's not that I'm trying to cut this video short, but I thought we started at 9, and shouldn't it end after an hour?
Oh, no, it doesn't end automatically anymore.
What?
It doesn't.
Oh my goodness. See, guys.
That was a
I'm so
long time
official.
ago. That was a long time ago.
No, it wasn't. I did
It
an
was.
IG live not long ago. Don't lie, okay? I don't exaggerate. I did an IG live like 3 weeks ago and it still had a limit.
No, definitely before, earlier, it stopped already.
No, nah. 100%.
Okay, we can agree to disagree.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Well, now that I know, so should we end? Should we end this, or should we answer one question? Because there is one question from the audience.
Sure.
Okay, we're just gonna answer this one question and then we shall wrap this up.
Okay.
So the question is, do positive self-affirmations help, and how does this help our relationship with Allah?
I believe it does. Positive self-affirmation example. What's an example, Sarina? Do you have one that you say to yourself?
It's kind of embarrassing, so I don't want to share it.
I am beautiful. I
No
I
comment.
think I would mine is every day in every way I'm getting better and better. Every day in every way I'm getting healthier and healthier. Every day in every way I'm getting smarter and smarter. Like, like saying those things. I feel like it helps you get closer to Allah because you are recognizing Allah's gift to you. If it's already there. If it's not there yet, then it's like a dua. And every dua is a form of ibadah. And so by repeating those positive affirmations, you are actually bridging yourself closer and closer to your creator. So that's my response to that. How about you? Do you have anything to say?
I prefer your answer, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I find that my positive self-affirmation, if I were to share it with everyone, you'll be surprised. And it's also embarrassing, so
It's okay. You don't have to.
That
You can just DM it to me privately.
No, why? Because you're a bully, remember? So you're gonna share it with the world. Okay. I need to share this. So Iman Publications said that they will share the digital merchandise at Iman Publications IG story. So you have to head on over to their account, Iman Publication. Okay. So thank you, Ustaz Mizi, for sharing with us your wisdom and the contents in your book. You Are Loved. So please get that. And I hope to share another session with you in the near future, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And yeah, so if people want this book collaboration between me and Ustaz Mizi, do either bombard his DMs or bombard mine.
DMs.
20 DMs. Now I feel I need to increase it to like 30, but anyway, yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope to see you next time. Bye. Assalamualaikum.